I woke up to the sound of something exploding in my driveway. When I looked out the window, my Cybertruck was on fire, like really on fire, and sparks were shooting out of the Charger like it was trying to kill someone. I ran out barefoot and just stood there, watching 80 grand melt into my concrete. I'd been eyeing that truck for over a year. It wasn't even about the car anymore. It was the fact that I could finally afford it. After years of building out our startup, late nights, missed holidays, ramen dinners, and praying an investor didn't ghost us, we hit it, and I told myself I'm getting the damn truck. When it arrived, it felt like a personal trophy, not in a flashy way. I wasn't out there revving the engine at 2 a.m. or peeling out of the neighborhood. I parked it in the driveway, polished it up, admired it from the kitchen window like a proud dad. And because I didn't want to give the HOA a single excuse, I did everything by the book. I hired a licensed contractor, the kind that's actually listed in the HOA's little approved vendor's guide, to install the Charger. Sent them the specs, submitted the paperwork, got the written green light. No shortcuts, no sorry I didn't know. Everything was signed off. Everything was clean. Honestly, I thought that'd be the end of it. But at the next HOA meeting, Karen, our dear neighborhood overlord, kind of casually mentioned how certain types of vehicles didn't quite fit the aesthetic vision of the community. She didn't say my name, didn't say Cybertruck, just certain types. Then she smiled at me like we were in on some kind of private joke. I laughed it off, figured she was just doing her Karen thing. I didn't expect her to turn it into a war. A couple weeks later, I got this letter taped to my front door. Not in the mailbox, taped to the door like some kind of eviction notice. It was from the HOA, signed by Karen, of course. Said my charging unit may not meet visual conformity standards and that I needed to remove or relocate it to a less publicly visible location. Which was wild, because again, it was already approved. By them. I literally sent in diagrams, product specs, contractor license numbers, all of it. And the Charger wasn't even some industrial-looking eyesore. It was sleek, minimal, sat on a little pedestal by the driveway, tucked behind a hedge. You'd have to go out of your way to even notice it. So I sent a calm, polite email back, attached the approval forms again, even quoted their own language, installation acceptable as submitted. Figured maybe it was just a mix-up. 2 days later, I got another note. This time, it slipped into my mailbox with no envelope. A friendly reminder to consider the harmony of the neighborhood. No name, just that. That's when I realized this wasn't about the Charger. Things got weird after that. One morning, I came out to head to work and found my rear tire completely flat. Not a slow leak, I mean flattened. I checked for a nail, a screw, anything. Nothing. Just a perfectly clean puncture, dead center, like someone had done it with a tool in real intent. I thought about filing a report, but what was I gonna say? Hi, I think my HOA is out to get me? Felt ridiculous, so I replaced the tire and let it go. Then came the scratch. Not a little one either, a long, deliberate line, about waist high, all the way down the driver's side door, deep enough to catch a fingernail. It was obvious someone had dragged something metal across it. I remember just staring at it for a solid minute, like maybe if I blinked hard enough it would disappear. But nope, still there, still real. I asked around, super casual, "Hey, you see anything weird out front last night?" Nobody had, or if they had, they weren't saying. So I checked the Charger. Looked fine. No marks, no tampering. I even had the installation team come back out just to double check it was still grounded properly. Cost me a few $100, but I wasn't taking chances. The last thing I wanted was an actual malfunction. Then Karen could wave her little bylaws in my face and say, "I told you so." But the worst part? I started noticing people looking at me differently. Like some of the neighbors who used to wave now just didn't. One guy actually crossed the street with his dog when I came outside. Another made a snide comment about tech bros and their toys. I hadn't done anything. I'd followed every rule. But somehow, I was already being treated like the problem. And then one night, the fire. The morning after the fire, I was still in shock. I hadn't slept. I just kept replaying it in my head. Those sparks shooting out, the heat, the smell of burning rubber and plastic. The fire department had done their job, but by the time they got there, the truck was already toast. I mean frame and ash toast. The official report came back as likely electrical malfunction. They said the fire started at the Charger, probably due to a short, but that made 0 sense. That station had more fail-safes than a Tesla itself. Surge protection, ground fault interrupter, the whole package. The install guys even came back out, again, and confirmed everything was up to code. No water damage, no signs of rodent chew, nothing. It was working perfectly until it wasn't. I went to the police, filed a report. They were polite, took my statement, but you could tell they'd already made up their minds. No signs of forced entry, no cameras, nothing that screamed arson. So they shrugged, said they'd log it as a possible equipment failure and move on. I brought it up at the next HOA meeting, hoping maybe someone would say something, or at least pretend to care. Karen tilted her head and did that tight-lipped smile she always does. Said it was so unfortunate, and maybe this was a wake-up call about the risks of new technology. Someone else chuckled. I sat there, the guy whose driveway turned into a damn bonfire, and they acted like I brought it on myself. I tried everything. Filed a complaint with the city, sent in the inspection documents. I even reached out to the charger manufacturer, and they were shocked too. Said in normal conditions their unit couldn't just spontaneously fail like that. The phrase they used was statistically improbable. Still, no one took it seriously. No one wanted to touch it. No video, no proof, no case. And that's when it hit me. Whoever did this, if someone did, knew exactly how to do it without leaving a trace. A couple weeks later, I'm out in the backyard with my neighbor Brian, guy who lives right next door on the left. We've always been on friendly terms. Not best buds, but solid. Tech guy like me works in cybersecurity, kind of quiet. He'd just gotten back from a long work trip and we were catching up over a couple beers. Eventually, I told him what happened. The fire, the charger, the tire, the scratch, everything. I didn't even plan to dump all of it. It just came out. I said, I know it sounds paranoid, but I swear something doesn't add up. I don't have proof, but I feel like Karen had something to do with it, or at least someone under her. Brian just stared at me for a second, didn't say anything. Then he goes, wait, I might actually have something. I thought he was joking, but he walks me into his garage, where he's got this server set up, little home rack, a couple drives, monitor, neat and clean. He pulls up his security system. Turns out he's had a camera running 24/7 on the side of his house, mostly for package thieves. But the angle, it catches a slice of my driveway. We start scrubbing through the night of the fire. I'm not breathing. And then we find it. Around 3 in the morning, there he is, Julian, Karen's little HOA lapdog. Bald guy, cargo shorts, flashlight in his mouth like he's playing mechanic. He walks right up to my charger, kneels down, opens the panel, and starts messing with something inside. He's there for maybe 10 minutes. Then he gets up and walks off like it's nothing. 35 minutes later, flash, sparks, full-blown inferno. I just sat there staring at the screen, hands shaking. Brian didn't say a word. Didn't need to. We both knew what we were looking at. It wasn't an accident. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept replaying the video over and over, pausing it, zooming in, watching Julian's face, his hands, the way he casually popped the panel open like he'd done it before. It wasn't some drunk prank. He came with tools. He knew exactly what he was doing. The next morning, I called a lawyer. I'd never dealt with legal stuff before, but I wasn't screwing around anymore. I showed him everything. The HOA approval documents, the charger specs, the fire report, the manufacturer's statement, and then, finally, the video. His eyebrows hit his hairline. He said, yeah, you've got a case. He helped me draft a formal complaint, property damage, negligence, intentional sabotage. We sent it to the police first. This time, they paid attention. Then we filed a civil suit. And we weren't just naming Julian, we were going after the HOA too. Because no handyman shows up at 3 in the morning to mess with someone's charger without permission. Someone told him to, and we both knew who that someone was. While that was moving through the system, I got the manufacturer to do a technical analysis of what had been left of the charger. They confirmed it had been manually tampered with. The surge protectors had been bypassed. Someone had literally bridged the failsafes. We also pulled every document, every HOA communication I'd ever had. My lawyer was meticulous. He said, we're not just going for damages. We're going for the whole damn board if we can. And that's when I realized I wasn't just trying to fix what they broke. I was going to burn their little kingdom down. The legal stuff moved slow, like molasses in winter slow, but once it started rolling, it rolled. The video was the game changer. I gave a copy to the police, handed it over to the fire investigators, and my lawyer submitted it with the civil suit paperwork. Suddenly, people who hadn't returned my calls for weeks were calling me. Julian got pulled in first. They questioned him, and from what I heard, he folded fast, claimed it was just a maintenance check. At 3 in the morning, with no notice, on private property, the cops weren't buying it, neither was the DA. Once that hit, I turned my focus to the HOA. I printed every single letter they'd ever sent me. Every weirdly worded reminder, every vague complaint about neighborhood harmony, every photo I'd taken of the charger, the scratch, the tire. I even pulled screenshots from the HOA's own email threads where Karen approved my charger. But the real fun part? I started talking to neighbors, quiet ones, People like Brian who'd been tiptoeing around the HOA for years, and I found out I wasn't the only one they'd tried to intimidate. One guy got fined for having a wreath on his door out of season. Another woman was told to paint over a mural on her backyard fence, facing away from the street. They all had stories. No one had ever pushed back before. But now that someone was fighting, people were ready. I gathered statements, collected signatures, and my lawyer filed a motion to remove Karen and Julian from the HOA board entirely, citing abuse of power, misconduct, and endangerment of residents. And just to twist the knife, I gave the video to a small local news blog that loves HOA drama. They ran the story hard. Headline read, "Caught on camera, HOA board member allegedly sabotages resident's electric vehicle." By the end of the week, the neighborhood group chat, which I had been quietly removed from months ago, was blowing up. The board held an emergency meeting at the clubhouse. First one that was actually well attended. I guess HOA sabotage scandal was a better motivator than the usual landscaping updates. Karen showed up looking like nothing was wrong. Hair perfect, clipboard in hand, that same little tight smile like she was about to host a wine tasting, not face public humiliation. Julian wasn't there. Big surprise. People were already murmuring when I walked in. A few nodded at me. A couple gave that look like about damn time. I didn't say anything. I just took a seat near the front, dropped a thick folder on the table, and waited. When they opened the floor for concerns, I raised my hand. Karen tried to move on. Someone from the back interrupted. "No, let him speak." So I did. I laid it all out. The timeline, the letters, the approvals, the vandalism, the fire, the video. I passed out printed stills of Julian's midnight visit. I read a statement from the charger manufacturer confirming tampering, and then I told them what the police had told me, that charges were being filed, and this was no longer just a civil matter. Karen sat there frozen, didn't blink, didn't breathe. Someone in the back actually gasped when I played the clip from the security footage. Just a 10-second snippet, Julian kneeling down with his tools, flashlight bobbing in his mouth. I didn't need to say much after that. By the end, 3 board members stood up and resigned on the spot. A motion was raised to remove Karen as president, effective immediately. It passed, unanimously. No one clapped. It wasn't that kind of moment. It was quiet, cold, like a verdict being read out loud. Karen gathered her papers, stood up like she was leaving a PTA meeting, and walked out without saying a word. A couple months later, I got the check from the settlement. Covered the truck, the charger, the legal fees, and then some. HOA tried to pretend it was just an unfortunate chapter, but they rewrote half the bylaws. After that, every board member has to sign a conflict of interest statement now. All inspections have to be logged with date, time, and resident consent. It's almost funny. Now they want transparency. I ended up ordering a new Cybertruck. Same color, same trim. When it showed up, I parked it in the exact same spot as before, like nothing ever happened. But this time, I had cameras. 4 of them, 2 wired into a cloud backup, one pointing straight at the charger, and one that just watches the street. For fun. I still see Karen sometimes. She didn't move. Too proud, I guess. She walks her little dog past my place, always looking straight ahead like I don't exist. That works fine for me. The new board's been quiet. No letters, no reminders, no friendly suggestions. Just peace. Sometimes I sit on the porch in the evening with a beer, watching the sun hit the truck just right, and I think all that just because someone didn't like the way it looked. Still looks good to me.